Oh my God, you're gonna love it.
Hey folks, welcome to the AI Chicks, where we're providing you cool conversations about AI for all. With each episode bringing you a different topic on how AI impacts your daily life. I am your host, Aisha Corpus Wynn, coming in hot as always with the fun tech insights. And I got my bestie here.
Hi guys, I'm Lana Howe, and I'm bringing you the curls, the charisma, and that entrepreneurial energy.
Today we're getting into AI and personal assistant.
Yes, so we expect a lot of you have already used personal assistants like a Siri or an Alexa, but today we're talking about using AI personal assistants on the next level.
Yeah, using AI to really help optimize any daily tasks that you have going on.
What's 2FA security on Kraken? Let's say I'm captaining my soccer team, and we're up by a goal against, Soda Springs FC. Do we relax? No way. Time to create an extra line of defense and protect that lead. That's like 2FA on Kraken, a surefire way to keep what you already have, safe and sound. Go to kraken.com and see what crypto can be. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Interactive Inc., PWI DBA Kraken. View PWI's disclosures at kraken.com/legal/disclosures.
Chelsea Sparrow joining us.
Yes.
Welcome to the AI Chicks.
Thank you.
I have had the pleasure of hanging out with Chelsea multiple times. Lana, this is your first time.
Yes, this is my first time meeting Chelsea, a fellow curly-haired girl, so I'm always happy to have another one in the house.
Yes.
Chelsea, why don't you start off by just introducing yourself and telling the listeners a little bit about your background?
Yeah. So hi, everyone. My name is Chelsea Sparrow. I work as the culture and creative lead on Microsoft's global search and AI team. And I've been at Microsoft for the last 5 years. It's definitely been a journey, worked across lots of different really interesting spaces. My background is in marketing, and my first role was in global brand strategy. So really thinking about how do we create a thoughtful strategy around a global portfolio of tech products. The next thing I started to work on was product marketing. And for folks that aren't super familiar with that, it's basically about making sure that our product roadmap is influenced with what customers actually want. And so got to spend a lot more time working closely with engineering and understanding like what are the different features that we're bringing into market? How do we do it? What actually makes sense for the customer? When I moved into that work, I was originally working on M365, which is like your Word, your Excel, your PowerPoint, Outlook, like how do all those things come together? And from there, I kind of got plucked out of that space and dropped into search and AI. And at the time, I didn't know what that team was going to do. I didn't really know much about AI, but that was at the inception of Microsoft's AI chatbot, which at the time was called Bing Chat. And that was really my introduction to AI. And over time, we saw that evolve into Copilot, which goes very far beyond search and starts to integrate into all the different places where you work in your productivity. So it's been a really, really interesting journey, and kind of getting into the point of like culture and creative. I started to get pulled into a lot of the work with our brand partnerships teams because I was running go-to-market for our AI image creator. And naturally, you have lots of like musicians and artists and designers that are interested in how can I integrate that AI image creation into my creative processes. And so me being so close to the product and also looking at go-to-market, I started to build a bridge between, hey, how can we think about what's happening in the product roadmap and bring that into the needs of our partners in those creative communities? And so that's kind of how I got into the work I do today, which is really working with our storytelling and partnerships around how creative communities are using AI. And yeah, that's been my journey so far.
Oh my God, I love that.
I know, right? And I love
she's so interesting.
And I love the blend because you do have like this marketing, global, cultural background, merging that with the tech and the engineering and finding that bridge. I think is one of the things that how we landed with the AI Chicks was pulling that bridge together for, people in the AI space and just the everyday person. And so on that note, and every episode, we have our AI take.
And today we used Copilot.
According to Copilot, AI has transformed personal productivity, and AI personal assistants play a pivotal role in this shift. To get started, consider using AI writing tools like Grammarly or ClickUp Brain for real-time suggestions on grammar and style. Explore project management assistants such as Trello or Asana to streamline tasks, allocate resources, and automate workflows. For hands-free convenience, try voice-controlled AI assistants like Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant. Additionally, let AI declutter your inbox by managing emails effectively. If you're feeling adventurous, create your own custom AI assistant using platforms like OpenAI. These tools empower users across various domains, enhancing efficiency and simplifying daily tasks.
I just want to jump in on things because I really think that the AI take for today, it was good. It gave a lot of our listeners here some good takeaway tools, things of that nature. But I just actually want to roll it back and really hyper focus on the fact that prompting is the gateway to using all of those tools. Prompting really requires us to be very clear on how we're communicating if we want the strongest output.
100%.
And I think when we're talking about starting using AI and the journey into AI, into evolving into having a personal assistant that is AI, that word personal really comes into an important factor with how you're communicating with it, how specific you're being with your prompt. So it is learning your preferences, learning your language, and really adapting to how you want that personal assistant to put those outputs, get those tasks done, complete those assignments, etc. So I just wanted to throw my little 2 cents out there, y'all. AI's take was cute, but I don't think I heard it say prompting at all.
It did not. It did not. That's her favorite. It's probably one of her favorite words.
Yeah. Prompting
and automation.
So I just wanted to make sure that I had to highlight that for our listeners. And so that's my take.
Yes. So, I mean, going off, Aisha, off of what you're saying about prompting, I mean, that's obviously key. For me, there's the added layer of parameters. And what I mean by parameters for anyone who's listening is like when you go to prompt, you're not just asking it a question, you want to also give it the parameters of how you want the answer to be given back to you. And I think about it from a professional setting. Like if I'm asking it to write an email, let's say to a colleague, I'm in mergers and acquisitions. That's my profession. It needs to be in a professional tone. It can't be like, hey girl, I got your numbers. Looking good. No.
But why not? I kind of like that. No, I'm just kidding.
You have to tell it, that you want it in a professional tone, that you want it to be this long, that you want it to be in email form versus do you want it in bullet form? Do you want it in a presentation form? Do you want it in a script? I think people assume with AI, there's sort of this over expectation of what it can do. It can do a lot of things, but it's almost like they just think that they can say, give me a recipe. And yes, it will give you a recipe. Is it the recipe you wanted?
Right.
Is it spicy food? Is it vegan? Is it vegetarian? Is it putting together your dietary, constraints? No, it's not. You just told it, give it a recipe.
Yeah.
So I think when you're thinking about a personal assistant, I just look at my own team. I have a team. I have a new person come join our team. I sit down with that team member. I give them standard operating procedures, a how-to guide. I'm going through what I expect them to do for certain tasks.
Like the guidelines.
Yeah. Then they go and they do those tasks and then they come back to me and I give them feedback. Look, you did this, this, and this right. However, this part, I expected the response to be more like this. And I think that that's the same thing that I expect when I'm working with any AI tool, whether it be a personal assistant or a large language model. People need to understand that there's still the responsibility of you to guide the tech to give you what you want.
Yeah, I always say adjectives and adverbs
are your
best
friends.
friends when you're communicating with AI and going through those prompts. Yeah. Thoughts?
Oh my gosh. I mean, what you just said, it's like you reached inside my brain and pulled out exactly the words I was going to use.
I knew the curly haired girls would just be, if
okay,
you know,
guys,
you know.
Okay, you guys, I'm outnumbered now.
No, I mean, that's so real. And so much of the work that I do is spent time demoing to people who don't really understand what AI is and how to use it. And one of the biggest things I always tell them is think about if you had an intern or a personal assistant, how would you tell them to do the work? Let's say you want someone to plan a vacation. You can't just say plan a vacation. I mean, they can, but what they're going to come back with is probably not going to be what you're looking for. But if you say, okay, I want to be somewhere warm. I want to be within 2 hours of Los Angeles. I love to go shopping. I love to eat this type of cuisine. That's going to be where the vacation comes back and is exactly what you're looking for. Yeah. The same can be said for prompting. But to your same point earlier, where a lot of people get caught up is we've all been kind of trained in this traditional way of search where you get as few keywords as possible, going through link after link after link. Whereas with AI, the more detail that you give it, just like you said, the better the answer is going to be.
I think that's like such a good point is we've been trained the search engine way of communicating. And we have to now give them a couple sentences.
This is where digital literacy really needs to be implemented in some way, shape, or form from even adolescence now, because we're just handed these devices.
Yes.
But no one's really teaching us all the different dynamics of it. There's all these facets of that digital literacy that I think is going to come into play more and more in society as this era evolves with artificial intelligence for sure.
Yeah. And I think that it's going to need to kind of trickle down to, schools and education and what children are learning.
This episode is brought to you by Atlassian. Atlassian makes the team collaboration software that powers enterprise businesses around the world, including over 80% of the Fortune 500. With Atlassian's AI-powered software like Jira, Confluence, and Loom, you'll have more time to do the work that matters. In fact, Atlassian customers experience a 25% reduction in project duration per year. Unleash the potential of your team at Atlassian.com. Atlassian.
Because, children today, 3-year-olds are on the tablet, right? When we were 3, we were not on a tablet, right? And so, but the fact of the matter is that's what's going, every generation that comes is going to have more experience with technology earlier and earlier in age.
But that doesn't mean that they know how to use it correctly or that they are using it in the most optimal way.
Exactly.
They're just being handed devices and figuring it out on their own.
Yeah, but that's where I think there's the opportunity and the responsibility for us to educate.
Exactly.
I think that's why it's really important for self-education as well as having resources available to the masses. And I'm sure, from where you sit, it's always ever evolving and growing and changing with features. From your standpoint, it's you using it, but then also communicating to the user, the end user, on how to use it and when to use things.
Yeah. And that's why I always encourage people to go ahead and start using the tools now. This is not stopping anytime soon.
Exactly.
Like after AI, it's going to be something else, then something else, and something else. And then even AI as we know it, I strongly believe that the place we're sitting in now is going to feel so prehistoric where we're typing everything out. The tool is typing out its response. There's going to be a future we are so beyond that. And so that's why I think it's so important for folks to start understanding it now, because to your same point of this technology is ever evolving. And if there was ever a time to start learning it, it's now.
Personally, did you start kind of playing with the large language tools, or did you start exploring things once it kind of became part of your professional career outside of that?
What was really interesting is learning how much AI already exists in every single thing that we do. This was going to be one of the points I was going to mention in the AI take. It was talking about Trello and the Google Assistant and Asana. Like, these are not the typical ways that people think about AI. Oftentimes they're associating the conversation around AI with what we now know as generative AI, but it exists in the vast majority of our technology, like even your TikTok feed, your Spotify, like all of that is powered by AI. And I think that's what was illuminated to me in my work is, I've already been using this thing on a regular basis. And again, generative AI is just one other iteration of it, but it exists already. And I think the way like the media portrays AI is super fearful. And once you start to understand that this is something that is already integrated in so much of the technology we use and that helps us on a daily basis, that's what kind of opened my mind to, oh, wow, like this is a part of our lives as we know it. And that's okay.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great point, because I think a lot of people will have the stance of, I'm not sure about AI, or, have you ever asked Siri what the weather is?
Right.
Then you used it. Have you ever written an email and then it will go, if you have any questions?
Yeah.
That is AI. If you've ever used the Snapchat filter, the dog, the dog ones or the cat ones or whatever, that's AI. So when people start realizing that it's already been incorporated, but now it's just the words, like artificial intelligence is like at the forefront. So it's really about getting people comfortable from the ways that you've already been using AI to maybe having more of a strong initiative to actually go out there and try to use the tools that are available.
All right. So I feel like we're talking a lot about starting the journey into AI in this conversation. So what do you think are some of the fundamentals that people should really learn and seek when they're starting their journey in AI? Everyone knows I'm already preaching out prompting, but curious about your thoughts, Chelsea.
You also reached in my brain and grabbed exactly what I was going to say. It's prompting, honestly. Back to the point that you mentioned earlier, I think not understanding how to prompt is what leads people to be pretty disappointed with the output that they get. Talking to it in the same way that you would an intern or personal assistant and giving it the context, giving it the clear action, giving it the details, that's what's going to yield the kind of answer that you're looking for. And beyond that, in terms of fundamentals, I would say one of the easiest things you can do to kind of get started with AI is looking at the places in your life where you spend the most time that you don't want to spend time, and start there. Take on that action and try to input generative AI into the process. I'll give an example. And this is like a very personal day-to-day kind of use case, but I think it's valuable. So I was looking for a digital camera and I was on TikTok finding all the different models that the girls are using. I was like, okay, I've got my set that I'm really excited about. But I went on a search engine trying to find okay, which of these are going to be the best ones. And I spent maybe 2 hours looking for the right camera. And that was a place where I was like, okay, hold on, Chelsea, you know how to use AI. Have it to one of the tools and start asking questions. And this is where we get back to the importance of the context, the action, the detail. details. I said, hey, I'm looking for a digital camera. I'm not a professional photographer. I don't understand technical specs. Can you break down the difference between these cameras for me as someone who is not a photographer and just wants to take cute pictures? And the way that I got the answer back and was able to very quickly go and purchase a camera, very quickly know exactly which one was for me, I think is a great example of those things that you spend a ton of time on. You don't have to do that. A better like professional example, I was working on a resume for my mom who has been a teacher of like maybe 27 years. And because she's in the public school system, they don't typically use resumes, but more so just speaking off of experience. And so now as someone with, I mean, this entire portfolio career is trying to build a resume, that's a task. She's looking at me like, and you're my daughter, you're going to get it done. But I mean, that was another space. So I was like, instead of me spending 3-4 days trying to get this done, let me go into generative AI. Let me talk to her about what are the core experiences that you want to bring to life. AI, help me write this in a professional tone. And like you said, the first response that you're getting is not necessarily going to be the one that you want to use. But I mean, me going back and forth with it, iterating on the responses it gave, I got that done in 2 hours when it could have been, again, a 4-day task. So I think it goes back to looking at the things that are taking up too much time and trying to think about how can I infuse generative AI into that process.
Just sidebarring real quick about like that generational gap. There's a lot of older people who maybe they know it's there. They maybe have some fear or concerns or feel intimidated about embracing it. And then the fact that your mom can just like hit you up. I'm sure everybody else is like, man, I need that. Yeah. I need to be able to just like hit up my kid or hit up my niece or nephew and just have them AI something for me. But instead, now they can just have a personal assistant.
They could have a person, they could have an AI personal assistant. But you know what? I really liked your example actually even about the digital camera, because hopefully that gives people ideas on different ways that they can use it in their daily life. I really appreciate that perspective. I think we're going to change direction right now.
Yeah, we're going to play a game.
And play a game with Chelsea.
All right.
Yeah.
So here at the AI Chicks, we always have to give someone a nickname and welcome them into the AI squad. I just wanted to start off with one that I was feeling because we've hung out a few times. You're super fly, very fly, and your last name is Sparrow. Oh. So I was like, what about if we call you Miss Fly?
Yes.
That's cute. That's cute.
That's cute. You feeling that? You feeling
that? I'm rocking with it.
You know, do you have any nicknames, Chels?
Honestly, no.
You don't
Everyone always asks me if I have a nickname. I never do. Chels, if anything.
I just gave her a nickname in my question, guys. I don't know if anyone caught that. I'm like, Chels.
If anybody was calling me anything, it would be that.
That's what I thought. So we wanted to be a little bit different. But I thought, is Miss Fly the best we got?
What are you thinking?
I mean, I like Miss Fly. That's hot.
I think Miss Fly is it.
All right, I won one. Yay.
You did. She won one. We'll go with Miss Fly. Switching gears. Can you explain a little bit about how AI personal assistants work and what technologies are used?
So I would say one, this aspect of it being a large language model. And for me, I mean, again, I'm someone where my background is in marketing and I always appreciate an explanation that like pulls back a little the technical jargon and just like, this is what it is. So it's basically trained on a large set of language, a large set of text to then be able to understand the patterns of language and spit out an output based on the question you're asking. I think what's really unique about Copilot specifically is it's also grounded in search. So a lot of generative AI tools you'll look at, they'll have a little disclaimer that'll say something like, this is trained on data from up to 2021. The really unique thing about Copilot is because, again, it's grounded in search results, it can pull for you real-time answers. So for example, if you're asking something like Copilot, who won the Olympics, who won in this category, that category, it'll be able to pull for you those real-time results. And I think another thing that a lot of people tend to like, and this is what we kind of connected on, is it being able to pull references for you. If you're ever using those kinds of tools in your work, a lot of times you want to understand, where is this information coming from? How can I know that it's reliable? So it kind of gives you that opportunity to go and explore what it's telling you for yourself and verify whether that fits the context of whatever you're working on.
I love that. That's great. I think that's a very easy explanation for most people, because for us here at the AI Chicks, that's our goal, is to just really break it down in easy ways. Yeah. Because especially to your point earlier, AI is being portrayed in the media, sometimes not in the most positive light. Yeah. So people understand it's here. They understand it's here to stay, but
they don't understand how it works. They don't understand how they can use it. It makes complete sense.
I'm curious, since you also have this global approach in your, experience and in your expertise, I'm using it for English. Yeah. But I'm curious on the global scale. I haven't really thought about the fact that someone's inputting French. Yeah. And so you have to have on the back end, you have to have the French version.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 100%.
You'd have to have all the languages.
Yeah.
Like that's and the different ways that they say things, right? Because sometimes when you take words in another language and translate them to English,
it's not the same.
It's not, the meaning is different.
Yeah.
So it's really understanding those nuances that you know, when you're in a different language.
Nuances, cultural nuances.
I mean, I think that's where it gets into the importance of training it on a set of data that is global and a set of data that is culturally relevant in the context of wherever you are. And I think that almost even gets into a conversation of like AI ethics and making sure that the data you're training it on is culturally sensitive so that the model is not spitting back responses that are harmful in one way or another to the user.
Well, and I think that's what I'm guessing is a perk about when something is based in search, right? Like when we were talking about source links and things like that, is because there's so much of those different languages and different source material on the internet and available worldwide. So to be able to tap into that is much more helpful
100%.
Than certain AI platforms that are just going off of collective data, because then that's limited.
Right.
100%.
And then there's also the issue of bias, right? Because historical data has
Intrinsically
biases
has bias.
intrinsically in it, right?
Because humans have bias.
Exactly. So I think that it's so important to have these types of conversations and get more people with different diverse backgrounds involved in technology and AI, because that's how you're going to make sure that your voices are captured.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that that's what I'm really passionate about. And I know here at the AI Chicks is really just making sure that the diverse voices also get heard, because then as the technology improves, you're captured in it. And it's more reflective of what is going on today than versus what was going on in history, you know, in 1950.
As we're getting into how people are using AI, how do we think are the important ways that AI can be used in daily productivity, daily management?
Well, I think one of the ways that I got into AI actually was helping me write emails or just getting that process started. Also marketing. I'm sitting here with a marketing guru.
Yeah.
Sometimes in your business, you have to write like a newsletter or you need to do a post, a social media post. We don't have endless hours. If you have a career, you're working on the career, but you know these are important aspects for you 100%. To do. So I think for me, that's one of the things when people ask me how I use AI, I feel like that's the easiest way to get people started. If you're a lawyer or if you're a doctor, you have things to say about what you do and how you help people. Write a post on LinkedIn or do an email campaign or something like that, just to let your patients or your clients know what's going on in your topic.
I think for me, prioritization is huge. I'm someone that thinks in like really, really, really fine details. And a lot of times as an ADHD girly, that has me kind of spinning on like, where do I start first in my work? And so that's where, again, look to AI as like that personal assistant to say, okay, this is like my top line goal for what I would love to get done today. These are all the tasks that I know I have to do. Can you prioritize this based on what's going to best help me meet my goals? So that's been, I mean, a major game changer for me as far as how I go through my day.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Process.
When you say daily process, is it even down to just laundry, grocery, or is it more daily but in career mode?
It's a career mode.
Okay.
That's where my brain really starts to spin on. I know I want to meet all of these actions. I want to know, I know I want to fulfill all of these things. What is the most important? We already know, like, it's only how many hours in a workday?
Yeah.
8, 12, depending on where you work. But, you know, it becomes really, really difficult to understand what's the most important. And that's where I offload that kind of mind weight to say, AI, tell me what I should be doing today. Thank you.
Do you agree with it?
I mean, just to get started with my day, I find that I have to, you know what I mean? Like just to kind of get myself going, because I know on my own, like I would be spending at least 30, maybe even an hour trying to prioritize. So, I mean, that's where I'm like, okay, whatever you say to do, that's how I'm going to manage my day. And it's been helpful so far.
Nice. I was going to ask, I was like, have you felt like a big difference? And when you started to incorporate it into your daily?
I do. And even to the point you were mentioning of letting it help you with marketing or whatever other stuff you do in your career, especially as someone who works in product marketing, I find that that, I'll have lots of really interesting creative ideas that I then need to translate to the needs of an engineer or someone who is really, really steeped in product. That's another place where I find AI is super, super helpful of like, okay, I know I would love to do this activation or this partnership. Can you help me translate it to someone whose goals are X, Y, and Z? Can you help me translate this to someone whose metrics are these things? And I find that it's really helpful in kind of helping me build a bridge between what I care about and what my partners care about.
In a way, you're talking about how to effectively communicate with people who their world or their
priorities,
their priorities
goals,
are very different. I think that's a really clear example of making sure that both of your objectives are being met.
Yeah, I'm communicating the value that I want to bring to the value that they need.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's really key. And I think that that gives an opportunity to be more effective communicators.
100%.
Communication's key all the way around.
It's always been.
Yeah, even more so with AI and all of these interactive communication devices for sure. And you know what's interesting too is a lot more devices now are becoming more voice prompting versus having to type anything out. And I think that also may help some people as well with getting into their journey with using AI and having to interact with a personal assistant. Because I think that's technically what a lot of us had our introduction to with like a Siri or Alexa. Yeah. We just got to talk to it.
The idea with working with an AI personal assistant is that the AI personal assistant would learn from the interactions with that user, correct? And then start creating more of a personalized experience. Can you talk on that?
Yeah. I would say, number one, it really depends on the tool that you're using, because there are some generative AI tools that don't do that. But for the ones that do, I think it's one of the best parts of the process. Like, you don't have to continue giving it the same context about who you are, the style that you talk in, the tone that you typically type in. Like, when it starts to understand the history of your previous ask, it starts to loop that into the output that it gives you going forward. So I think the tools that do kind of personalize based on your needs and your history are some of the best ones to use. Because again, you don't have to keep giving it context. Again, that gets back to the point of, in many ways, it acts as a real personal assistant, where if you have like a real life person that you've told them time and time again the way that you act, the way that you manage your team, the types of things that you're looking for, it takes that context and then pulls that into any other action it does for you. And I mean, a lot of these tools are no different.
So you talked a little bit earlier about, helping your mom with the resume and things like that. Can you share any other fun and unique personal experiences you've had, using AI, or even if there's just like challenges that you had to learn to overcome when you were getting into your AI journey and building out your experience of having like an AI personal assistant?
Yeah, there are lots of like little tips and tricks I've learned along the way that help.
Okay.
No, girl, we want the tips.
Okay,
we want the tips and tricks, girl.
Okay, tips and tricks from Miss Fly segment. Go.
Don't gas it up in case people have heard these before, but these are things that have changed the way outputs come out for me and have really been really helpful. One I would say is like the imagine before you start your prompt. This is you talking to the tool, saying, imagine you're a career expert. Now, can you help me think about the way that I can answer this person that da-da-da-da? And I know it sounds really, really simple, but please try it, because I think it kind of sets the AI in the context that it has to be in to answer your question. Because a lot of times, because it's pulling from a really, really large set of data, maybe the way the output comes out isn't necessarily the kind of like perspective that you were looking for, the kind of output that you were looking for. And giving it the context of imagine you are this kind of person, or imagine you're an expert in this kind of thing, helps the output get really, really refined to exactly what your need was. Another one that I really love is giving it your prompt and then say, ask me questions first. That one has been really helpful in making sure that the AI has all of the information that it needs to give you the output that you want. Because a lot of times, maybe our prompts aren't that great, even when we think that we're prompt experts, and telling it to ask you questions first is a great way to get all of the right information out. And then when it gives you your output, it's really, really refined to your needs.
I have tried that a little bit, but I could probably use that more.
I use it all the time. It's a 10 out of 10.
I definitely use the imagine or act as.
No, I use the act as.
Yeah, I use that all the time.
But not the questions. I usually try to give it all the information up front to move the process along.
Yeah.
But what questions do you need to know from me to be able to give me a better result?
Yeah.
I haven't played with that as much.
I think it's best when you're giving it a lot of information at once that you need it to distill down. So I'll give you an example. One time I was creating an intro video about me, and I had to take all of my past experiences and everything that I wanted to input into this video and distill it down into one narrative. And I was like, okay, I'm going to lay out everything I even think I want you to include. I love to get it down to a narrative. Ask me questions first, because I didn't have the context of where did I even want it to go. If you're at a place where you're just giving it a bunch of information and you don't have a really clear path forward, it coming around and asking you questions is a great way to kind of get your prompt distilled down to exactly what you need.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Okay. I'm going to play around with that and do that a little bit more. I'm big on being cordial
Please and thank you to AI.
I literally have noticed the difference. The outputs and the dynamic of my AI conversation, air quotes, feels different when I'm using please, thank you.
Or that was great. I love that response.
Yeah,
that positive feedback is really helpful because it lets the tool know that it's headed in the right direction and it can take that context into the rest of your conversation.
Exactly. That's what I've noticed. You're starting one place within your chat or your conversation with AI, and then I'll say that was super helpful, or the first part was perfect, exactly what I needed. And then so as the dynamic in the conversation continues, it definitely gets more and more refined to what I'm looking for, especially in like a research setting. So for me, with working on a story or doing a documentary or working on a podcast where you're deep diving into a certain subculture or genre, there's a lot of research that happens. And so having that dynamic and that interaction and being cordial and all of those things with AI, I've definitely noticed a difference.
Being cordial with people and being cordial with technology gets you the same result. I've had people, tell us, I just bark at it and tell it what to do. We have felt in our conversations that we've had that we get better outputs.
Yeah. For sure.
Now, whether that's just us thinking that we're being, nice people and getting a better output, I don't know. But I think that there is something to it because at least acknowledging, yes, that's the right direction, but we want this change, I think does help it give you more of what you want.
Yeah. I don't know much about politeness per se, but what I will say is the positive feedback piece is really important because at the end of the day, like it's trying to look across all of its data set to give you the best possible output. And if you're not telling it, hey, this part of the answer I really liked, it's quite possible that the next output you get is going to be completely different. And now you're kind of losing that momentum you had towards getting to an output that you actually cared about, right? Or that you actually wanted. So letting the tool know like, hey, this part I really liked, this part I don't want you to change is really valuable. And again, getting you to the output that you want.
I'm curious, what would be all the areas and facets of people being able to use personal assistants? Obviously, there's emails, travel itineraries,
book recommendations. I did that. It gave me some great books to read. I'm reading right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Book recommendations. Okay.
Yes.
House tasks, even
shopping comparisons.
Listen, she's just dying for an AI personal assistant for her personal life.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
She wants someone. I mean,
like,
order the groceries, do the laundry. If we could find a way to also have the dry cleaning just magically show up.
Yeah.
All of the ways.
I think the best way to look at it is any place that you are taking too much time, try to use AI. As someone who is very curious about the world around me, finding ways to infuse generative AI into those questions is really helpful. I remember I was somewhere in Palos Verdes and I was like, what kind of plant is this? And one thing I don't think a lot of people know about Copilot in particular is that it has this multimodal feature where you can take a picture and ask it questions about what you see. And so I was really curious about the kind of plant I was looking at, took a picture and it said, this is the kind of plant it is. This is how you can identify it. Another really great example, if you're someone that's really into art, I'll know a lot of times I'll see a painting somewhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, who is this artist? I need to know. And so taking a picture of it and asking it questions about who is this? Where can I find it? I mean, again, if you're someone that's super naturally curious and you're always asking questions about the world around you, a really good way to get to those answers is using generative AI.
I love that.
Yeah. Any last words?
I would say just try the tools. I know it can be so scary, especially with like the media narrative around what AI is. But like we said earlier in the episode, you are already using AI more likely than not. So if there's a tool that you've been hearing about a lot and there are places in your life where you know you can save time, just start working with it because I think this kind of early stage of the technology is the best time to start to get really familiar.
And we love a source. So just putting a plug in for Copilot, my favorite part. So definitely check that out. Chelsea, AKA Miss Fly.
AKA my curly twin.
Thank you so much for joining us on the AI Chicks. Thank you all for joining us. Make sure to subscribe, follow us on socials.
And don't forget to grab the merch.
All right, you guys, take care. Bye.
Listen to the AI Chicks on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Video episodes are available on Patreon. And check out our socials at the AI Chicks.